Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today behind me I have a 2023 Santa Fe SEL and the all-new 2024 Santa Fe SEL. Now in this video I want to compare each of these two, not in terms of the features and options that are different between the two, because I do have videos covering those in a little bit more detail, but more so the actual footprint of each of these two in terms of interior physical size, the cargo capacity. Of course, the all-new Santa Fe has the standard third row seating, but also how each of these two vehicles drive, because the powertrains are going to be entirely different between these two, which will certainly give the all-new 2024 Santa Fe a totally different driving experience versus the SEL. However, if you do compare the previous generation Santa Fe in its limited or calligraphy trim levels, which also had the 2.5 liter turbo with the 8-speed dual clutch transmission, then you are going to be fairly familiar with that powertrain, as it is now standard in every 2024 Santa Fe. So make sure you guys buckle up, stay tuned here. There's a lot of useful information here in this video, but without further ado, let's go ahead and take a quick look at each of these two Santa Fe's behind me and then take each one for a test drive. So I've gone ahead and moved each of these two Santa Fe's side by side just so it's a little bit easier to distinguish and see what the actual physical footprint differences are here parked side by side. Now, believe it or not, even though the 2024 Santa Fe is pretty much larger in every single dimension, there are a couple design characteristics which to me stand out when you park each of these two side by side, which makes the 2024 look a little bit smaller than it actually is sitting next to this particular vehicle. So the one aspect in terms of the design that seems actually smaller over there on the larger 2024 is the hood design. So over here with the 2023 model, the hood itself kind of slopes up until it hits the windshield and where the driver's seating position is, and then of course it goes over the top of the vehicle. Now when you look at the hood next to each other, the 2024 actually has a pretty flat hood until it hits the windshield, where then of course the boxy nature starts behind the front seating position. But you know, kind of swinging around the side of the 2023, you can see just how much angle it has there on the overall hood, and then it of course slopes down to the front grille design where it wraps into the front bumper. We're going over here to the 2024. The hood itself is actually fairly flat, and of course the entire vehicle has a lot of, you know, flat or hard edges, but you can see just how flat the hood design is till it slopes into the windshield. And hopefully you can see behind the 2023 is actually just a hair taller up in this vicinity versus the newly redesigned 2024. So that is the one aspect to me that stands out. But when you look at the side view mirrors and everything like that, they are fairly close and in line with the same overall height. I guess there is one other aspect that is noticeably taller here on the 2024, and that is the roof rails on the sides of the vehicles found on the SEL trim level and higher. These stick up a good 2 or 3 inches over the actual metal roof up there, versus the 2023s, which are kind of integrated, flush mounted into the top of the roof, which stick up maybe about 1 inch or 2. So that is a good portion of where the additional exterior height of the vehicle is picked up versus the outgoing model. But of course, when we wrap around the back of the vehicles, that is another aspect where you really do see some dimensional differences, even though again, the 2024 isn't all that much longer in total overall length. So setting off here in the 2023 Santa Fe SEL. Some of you guys might immediately be wondering why I'm comparing this trim level and not maybe a 2.5 liter turbo limited or calligraphy from the previous generation, given the all-new Santa Fe has the 2.5 liter turbo as standard. Well, I'm simply doing this because I think this is the more relevant comparison and what people might end up cross-shopping between each of these two, just because this was the SEL trim level, and of course the new one is the SEL as well. That is by far, I think, going to be the biggest difference between the two once I hop in the 2024 Santa Fe, and that's just going to be the overall power output from, you know, this is the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, where that's of course got the turbo, and the power differential between these two is just absolutely insane. I think it's right around somewhere about 100 horsepower difference or more in the 2024, and I think well over 100 pound-feet of torque more as well. So in terms of get up and go, even though that vehicle is going to weigh just a little bit more than a 2023 equivalent, that is certainly going to be the more peppier version between each of these two. And I actually have not driven the 2024 more than around a parking lot, so that will going to be my first raw driving impressions of that vehicle. But I think it will be a great experience to come straight from a 2023 and hopping in straight into a 2024. Okay, so I've been driving the Santa Fe for a couple more minutes, and as you can see there from that acceleration, I think that is going to be by far the biggest difference between these two, but that's just guessing before I even drive the 2024. The power output from the 2.5 in this size of vehicle is, I'm not gonna lie, borderline inadequate. It is fairly slow. I'm good or glad the 8-speed automatic transmission is fairly eager to downshift because any sort of throttle application is going to probably get a downshift from the transmission, just a matter of if it's 1, 2, or 3 gears by chance, depending on how much you push the throttle down and how much acceleration you need. Outside of that, this vehicle actually drives very, very well, and it's actually very impressive. Given it has been around for several years. It's very quiet on the inside. The interior space and the overall ergonomics is very good. And it's very quiet inside as well at 55, 60, 65 miles an hour. I have zero complaints. It's actually a very windy day outside, so the fact that it is as quiet as it is in here is very impressive. I really don't have any major complaints about this previous generation Santa Fe outside of the base 2.5 liter powertrain. Now, as you know, I've compared the hybrid and the 2.5 liter turbo in a side-by-side comparison. Make sure to check that video out if you guys are curious, but either of those powertrains are going to be very, very suitable for this size of vehicle in terms of the overall power output and the efficiency that one would expect. Obviously, the hybrid is going to be the most efficient Santa Fe available, but the 2.5 liter turbo obviously offers the more performance and the better driving dynamic in terms of just the physical straight line speed or effortless acceleration. The seating position is very good. It's a pretty upright, pretty high off the ground seating position, similar to that of the Palisade, maybe just a little bit lower. Visibility is good. You have nice large side mirrors. Forward visibility is good. The hood slopes down. You really don't see the hood much at all unless you have the seat raised way up. The seats themselves are very, very comfortable. It's like one of the aspects I really did like about it was this more premium feeling cloth interior. I almost kind of miss it in the next Santa Fe just because the SE cloth is not quite as nice as the previous generation. So I think the seats themselves are extremely comfortable in this vehicle. The power adjustments allow for plenty of different methods of adjusting the seat so you can get comfortable while behind the wheel. And yeah, I have zero complaints outside of the power output from the base powertrain here in the 2023 Santa Fe. So I will say the material usage between both of these two is somewhat similar, although they did introduce a little bit of gloss black plastic in the 2024 models, which you really don't see here in the 2023. But most of the physical controls and physical buttons remain there. So really do appreciate Hyundai for keeping all of the physical controls in place. Now, one thing I am curious about is the handling here between the two Santa Fe's. Not only given the additional size and a little bit of additional weight in the 2024, but just to see how, maybe they've revised the suspension's tuning and setup between these two. So, turning on the interstate, it's impressive how well it handles for what it is. That power output, though, 60 miles an hour, no sweat, very actually nimble for what it is. Yeah, but merging on the interstate, the engine, you can tell, is under a little bit of pressure to get you up to speed. So it does it without a problem, but you can hear it. It is definitely revving away. But here we are at 76 miles an hour, cruising down the interstate. A little bit of additional wind noise, I think, just because it is an extra windy day outside, but engaging lane fall assist and adaptive cruise control, extremely easy. And that is a little bit unfortunate, and I guess worth mentioning that the 2023 SEL does have Highway Drive Assist 1, where the 2024 Santa Fe SEL does not. It only has lane fall assist with smart cruise control. Now, those two systems combined basically make up Highway Drive Assist, but it could be due to the fact it does not have the built-in navigation, which does tie into Highway Drive Assist with the automatic speed adjustments and stuff like that. So if you want Highway Drive Assist, essentially you do have to get a XRT trim level or higher, which comes with the built-in navigation for the infotainment system. Highway Drive Assist and all Hyundai's driver assistance technologies work extremely well. I would say are near the top of the class in terms of performance, and yeah, no complaints with what it has to offer in terms of noise levels, ride quality, overall comfort. Very, very good. All right, hopping in the 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe. I don't know if you guys can see it or I'm expressing it on camera too well, but I'm actually very excited to drive this vehicle, given it is such a popular model for Hyundai and their brand, and it's such a radical change that, I don't know, just interested and excited to drive it out on the roadway and share my thoughts with you guys for the very first time, so you guys get my initial raw reaction. So set the mirrors here. Safety first for everybody involved. Now, one thing I will say is normally I have the seats all the way down in pretty much every single vehicle I drive. I did over there. I moved this one down to its lowest position, and with that, I do feel immediately within the cabin that I'm kind of more within the vehicle rather than sitting just a little bit on top of the vehicle. So that's the sensation I get. It could just be the fact that the roof line, I have a little bit more headroom up top. The seat goes lower. Maybe the belt line is a little bit taller. So that's just my first initial reaction upon getting inside of this vehicle. Another very first impression I have setting out here out of the parking lot is the fact that, as we know, this one has the 8-speed dual clutch transmission, and you immediately get the dual clutch sensation. If you've ever driven a vehicle with a dual clutch, whether from Hyundai or other brands, you probably know what I'm talking about. And for some people, that's a good thing. Some people, that's not such a good thing. So you will get that sensation, or I'm getting that sensation from pulling out of the parking lot and driving and owning a dual clutch transmission vehicle myself. So I kind of know what that feels like. But it's just a little bit different of a sensation upon throttle tipping, if you will, an initial acceleration. But in terms of the overall shifts of the transmission, that's where I think the dual clutch really shines in its overall engagement. So let's go ahead and give it a little acceleration here in normal mode. Oh, I'm not even full throttle. I'm probably like 75% throttle, and the performance difference between either of the two vehicles is just insane. I mean, the numbers are probably the exact difference you feel behind the wheel. You know, I think it's like right around 100 horsepower, like I mentioned, and well over 100 pound-feet of torque. And you really do feel the torque pull this thing along fairly effortlessly. So yeah, as you saw by the smile on my face and my initial reaction, that is huge difference between each of these two with those two different powertrains. Sound levels inside of the cabin feel relatively similar. No major big difference that stands out to me. I guess feeling around the cabin, visibility is actually pretty good inside this vehicle. Now, I mentioned the hood lines earlier between each of these two in the exterior comparison, but believe it or not, with the seat all the way down, I see way more hood inside this vehicle, which is good for a lot of people out there because it gives them a sense of where the edges or corners of the vehicle are at. And I definitely see the hood inside of the 2024 model where I really did not inside of the 2023. We still have these small quarter glass windows, so you still have door-mounted exterior mirrors, which give you that little extra piece of glass for additional visibility. I will say that glass is not quite as big as the 2023s, but it still gives you enough room to see behind the mirrors on either side of the vehicle. Rearward visibility is very good. The mirror size and the overall glass out back is good, so no big issues there. Blind spots, I would say visibility out the sides, rear towards the sides might be a little bit worse with the pillars here and over the right shoulder, but it's really nothing that I wouldn't get used to there. Now, one thing I will say in terms of the design of the interior cabin and just the way the center console is laid out, it is not padded on the sides here in the SEL trim, and I'm not sure it's padded in any of the other trims as well. But my right knee with the seat all the way down, I have a tendency to keep my legs a little bit more spread than maybe some drivers out there. So this is just kind of me behind the wheel, my first impressions. My knee is contacting the center console here on the side. In the actual silver portion, it's like right on the joint of the two plastics where the wireless charging is. But my knee is kind of contacting that just a little bit. So if I had one recommendation to Hyundai, make the sides of the center console padded for less impact or less feel for the knee if you are a little bit on the long-legged side or a little bit just a taller person, depending on your seating position. But my left knee, no issues with overall space here, so plenty of room on the left side, a little bit tight up on the right. But you know, cruising along here on the same exact route I took with the 2023 model, rides very good. It's quiet on the interior. Steering wheel materials and seating materials are very, very soft for what they are. Once again, this is the H-Tex leatherette seats, so they are entirely different material, but I will say they are still comfortable. The shape doesn't give me any weird vibes with getting comfortable or anything. So from that standpoint, pretty good. Test the brakes here. Pretty strong braking performance. Initial tip-in or bite could be a little bit better, but no complaints there. That was a pretty quick stop from 60 miles an hour, but yeah, I mean, armrest feels like it's in a good position. I will say the door position, the armrest is a little bit farther forward than I would like. Now, I typically sit a little bit more in a relaxed seating position, so again, this might be just me or a certain set of drivers out there. But you know, my elbow is not even resting on the door panel, so it's almost hanging off the back of the door. If you guys can see it here, there's like a void before the B pillar starts. So I guess that's a little bit uncomfortable as you're kind of twisting your body if you're trying to use the armrest where I feel like my driving position is. Now, the farther forward you sit to the steering wheel, the better or more usable that armrest will be. So a little bit of a weird issue design-wise going on there. But the center console armrest is very good. I haven't really noticed any of the dual clutch, you know, driving differences, you know, here upon setting out from the parking lot at the lower speeds. So shifts are extremely smooth, accelerating from a normal stop. Power and torque is plentiful. It feels like it's almost effortless, which is something that you definitely did not feel like in the 2023 model. If anything, that thing was putting an effort to getting you moving up to, you know, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour here in this one. I don't even feel like I'm accelerating all that much just because of the, you know, significant amount of more torque that this vehicle has. Going over this rough set of road that I normally drive on the route, Santa Fe is handling it with ease. There is no problem whatsoever. The bumps are just being absolutely soaked up, very isolated in the cabin. So the 23 was almost the same way, but you know, really very, very good ride quality here in the 2024 model, given the additional weight and a little bit of additional length as well. And the wheelbase could be partly due to the fact that, you know, maybe it rides a smidge better than the 2023s. Generally speaking, a longer wheelbase gives you a more pleasurable riding experience, you know, on the comfortable side of things. In terms of the overall layout and ergonomics here on the interior, I will say I do feel like the center infotainment screen, it's mounted just a hair lower, or it's not as sticking up as far above the dashboard, which I personally like. I don't mind it sticking up from the dashboard, but it does give it a nice cleaner look. Have better visibility over towards, you know, the front right side of the vehicle or the passenger side. So I do like how they move that down just an inch or two into the dashboard. Climate controls and everything are pretty much located in the exact same spot. Although I will say, this kind of fits with the door panel armrest situation I was just discussing. It feels like it's a farther reach or a little bit farther away from the driver, which I'm not a huge fan of. The climate controls and everything were pretty much like right at the end of my normal reach in the 2023 Santa Fe. We're here in the 2024. I almost have to take my, you know, back off the armrest, lean forward just a little bit to gain access to some of those, either the screen or physical buttons for the heated seats and stuff. So a little bit of a negative in that regard. Is it a deal breaker? Probably not for most people, but it is worth noting and something I am noticing, you know, if I need to adjust the fan speed, climate controls, or anything like that. But of course, you can use your voice or the voice command system to do a lot of the functionalities here inside the Santa Fe, which is also a cool feature. But I do like the fact that they kept all of the physical controls in roughly the same position as 2023. So if you're coming from a 2023 model, upgrading, or if you're coming from a last generation model, upgrading to a new next generation Santa Fe, all of this should be very, very familiar as everything's located in a very similar position. Outside of the cruise control on the steering wheel being flip-flopped like Hyundai has been doing over the last couple years with their next generation vehicles. So cruise control is now on the left side, where in the 2023 and prior models, it was located on the right side of the steering wheel. Now, one thing I am very curious about is the nimbleness in terms of the performance, as well as the sport mode driving dynamics. So flipping into sport mode, immediately it downshifts, as well as starts holding the revs a little bit higher in the rev band. So we'll go ahead and merge here onto the interstate. Paddle shifters are actually extremely responsive, so go ahead and throw it into this corner here. It's pretty good. Oh my goodness. This thing is eager. 60, about the same amount of speed. Way more responsive in terms of the powertrain. So the fact that this is made standard as the, available powertrain is very, very impressive by Hyundai, and somewhat justified for the about $4,500 to $5,000 price increase over an equivalent 2023. So do keep that in mind. It's very, it's a very noticeable or sizable increase in terms of the overall MSRP, but you are gaining additional equipment, 3-row seating, cargo capacity, and that powertrain, which is not to be ignored. Now this one, like I mentioned, does not have highway drive assist, so enabling lane fall assist puts a line in the middle of the display cluster here, will activate cruise control right here at 73 miles an hour. But yeah, extremely smooth out on the interstate. We'll go ahead and take this off ramp, see how she handles once again. Still in sport mode. Took the other vehicle, was about 40 miles an hour. We'll see how confident this feels. 45. Yeah, 43 to 45 is about the same threshold, but I mean, the tires weren't even squealing or anything, and it feels very planted. So chassis dynamics and everything feel pretty robust in a vehicle like this. I have to say, it's actually quite comical to think about when you're driving a family hauler like this, but pretty cool that you can toss this vehicle, throw it into corners with a pretty good confidence level. Now, in terms of physical buttons and controls, I just noticed this, but I went to turn off or deactivate lane keeping assist, which is the more basic level, not lane fall assist. There's a button dedicated to that on the steering wheel for both of these, but just for the regular lane keeping assist, you have to go through the infotainment system to disable it, which there was a physical button to the left side of the steering wheel in the 2023 and earlier models. So that's a little bit of a negative in my regard. Whenever you have to go onto the touchscreen just to disable or enable a feature, that is a little bit unfortunate. Now, thankfully, Hyundai makes it pretty easy to go through the menus while you're driving to activate that or disable or change the settings, but a little bit unfortunate that there's not still a button over here to the left of the steering wheel just to disable the regular lane keeping assist system. Yeah, first impressions of this vehicle, very, very impressive. I think it's a sizable upgrade over the 2023 in many aspects. There are a few design choices and stuff on the interior which I'm not sure I'm 100% in agreement with or a fan of, but in terms of just how the vehicle drives, I would say it's certainly an upgrade in that regard, and really not nothing really major to complain about upon my first driving impressions. But with all that said, make sure you guys stay tuned and subscribe here on the channel, as I will likely receive one of these vehicles in a higher trim level as a press loan from Hyundai once these enter the press fleets. I believe they will be doing that over the next month or so, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure you guys stay tuned. I will have one of these to drive for a week, give you my comprehensive thoughts in terms of the driving review, things I like and dislike about it on a more long-term, week-long basis. That gives me a much better idea of these vehicles rather than just sitting here at a stoplight naming things I like and dislike after driving it for about 10 minutes. So this is just my raw first driving impressions here of this vehicle, but make sure you guys subscribe. Stay tuned to the channel for additional content coming here in the future. But anyways, with all that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this 2023 versus 2024 Santa Fe driving comparison video. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section. I will do my best to answer them. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed it and or found something helpful. And let me know which one you prefer if you're interested or in the market for a Santa Fe. Would you rather find a leftover brand new 2023 or a used low mile certified pre-owned one over the 2024 model, or do you like the new styling, all of the changes that they made for this next generation, and prefer that over the 2023 models, even with the sizable price increase? Interested to hear your thoughts on that down in the comment section below. But anyways, yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, staying subscribed to the channel, viewing these videos, and helping to support us to do bigger and better things as time goes on. So appreciate those who have been watching for quite some time. We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary, I believe, from my first upload. So very exciting about that. Bigger, better things to come. So make sure you guys subscribe and stay tuned, especially over the next couple months where it's going to be a pretty active period here on the channel. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the 2023 versus 2024 Santa Fe. And as always, hope to see you guys in the next one.